afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first look webinar introducing the brand new ConstructionSuite 11. I'm Holly Gibson, Product Specialist here at UDA Technologies, joined by my colleague Jordan Davis.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or morning or evening, depending on where you are in the world.
We're so excited to have you with us today to take a first look at the brand new ConstructionSuite 11. We'll really be discussing and taking you through all of the new features that we built into this brand new version of ConstructionSuite, designed as always to help your jobs be more efficient and profitable going into 2020. So we can't wait to show you what we've done. Some of the things that we'll be looking at today are enhancements to help your jobs become more profitable, better profit calculations, more visibility for where you stand, and easier access to that information in terms of pulling it in, even exporting it out, looking at some of the things that we've done with QuickBooks 2020 integration. There's just so much in ConstructionSuite 11 that I think you guys are going to really love.
Yeah, so thank you all again for joining us today. If this is the first time that you've joined into a UDA Technologies webinar, I'd like to invite you to take a look at the Gotowebinar Panel. Our colleague Sydney Dorsey is going to be joining us today. She'll be answering questions that you submit to us through the questions section of the Gotowebinar Panel. She'll also be highlighting some questions that stand out and really or that she thinks that we should answer as we go through all of the new updates and improvements to ConstructionSuite 11. We'd love to find out a little about you, what you're most excited about to learn today inside of ConstructionSuite 11. Tell us a little about yourselves, about your company, and we'd love to answer your questions today. Now, for those of you who don't know too much about UDA Technologies, we've been in business for well over 20 years at this point, and we're so excited, to show off the latest and greatest inside of ConstructionSuite. ConstructionSuite has been our flagship desktop product for about as long as we've been a company. Isn't that right, Holly?
Just about. So ConstructionSuite, this is, of course, the 11th version of ConstructionSuite, and it's been out for about 15 years now. So it's a product that's really had time to grow. I know so many of you have been using and really depending on ConstructionSuite. Some of you for as long as you've been in business as well, and I know many of you have been with us from the beginning. Now, if you're just joining us or just new to ConstructionSuite and what it's all about and what this program can really do for you, it really is an all-in-one solution for setting your projects up for success. You have dashboards to stay on top of what's going on in your company, everything from, how many leads do we have coming in, a quick snapshot of financial and profitability information right on that first page, all sorts of reports, including work in progress, profitability reporting. Of course, it's also going to include those powerhouse core tools that you really need to set those projects up. Things like putting together accurate estimates and being able to do so quickly and efficiently. Building schedules for your projects. So you'll have, full estimating, full scheduling built right into ConstructionSuite. In addition to being able to do things like create contracts and documents and all sorts of reports from that information that you're putting in, really keep track of all of your projects. What types of jobs are you working on? Which ones are working out best for your company? Which ones are actually profitable? In addition to sort of the day-to-day management of being able to see what stage, for example, each project is in, or, what needs to happen next when we're looking at something like a workflow for your project. So all sorts of wonderful tools built into ConstructionSuite that people really come to rely on day to day to set those jobs up for success at your fingertips, really, all in one program.
Yeah, ConstructionSuite really is a all-in-one location to find information not only about your projects, but also to find out more information about the different people that you work with, whether that's keeping track of insurance certificates and proof of insurance for your subcontractors. There's some nice catches built into the system, for instance, that will tell you if someone's insurance certificates have expired. I actually talked to a client about that earlier this morning who was trying to dodge or prevent a situation where they were actually fined for exactly that. Not even 3 hours ago. It keeps you in the loop on where your sales team or where you might actually be when you're trying to drive new business through from initial contact all the way through to a signed proposal. Of course, the scheduling tools also tie directly into a very robust calendar system as well. Really, ConstructionSuite is like a gigantic Swiss Army knife for the construction professional out there. Really, there's not much at this point that ConstructionSuite can't do, and we're really, really excited today to highlight one of the first of the enhancements to ConstructionSuite, and that is the speed and performance. Now, this isn't a brand new flashy feature. We're not too sure what our developer team has done on the back end of ConstructionSuite, but the platform is particularly zippy at this point. As Holly's been moving around the different dashboards and sections inside of ConstructionSuite. Those of you pros out there who've used ConstructionSuite in the past are probably noticing that everything is just snapping into place really quickly. Not that we've had any speed questions in the past, but we've really had a philosophy for a very long time that our systems should work for you to make you more efficient. And that's always true whether you're working with ConstructionSuite or really any of our other tools. A huge priority for us is always making things faster. If it's fast now, it can be faster. And that's something that we do not want to compromise on ever. So we're always looking for those really down to the millisecond improvements, Holly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's pretty flashy, Jordan. In fact, some of the speed and performance enhancements might be some of my very favorites for ConstructionSuite 11. I've worked with so many of you guys out there over the years, and I see the volume of projects and information that you guys are really putting into ConstructionSuite and what you're depending on it to do for you every day. So you're right, with that focus from UDA, and that's true really for all of the products that we offer. We really always want to look at that speed, that performance, make sure that things are really going to add to that efficiency day to day. So just know that on the backside, our development team is always looking at things like, how can we make estimates open even faster, or how can we make, accessing a great deal of information, even a little bit faster for you. So that is definitely, I think, one of my favorite improvements. Now, when we kind of look at the different areas that ConstructionSuite really helps people with on a day-to-day basis, of course, estimating is one of those core things because it's really coming to the heart of financial health for the project. That's always going to start with an accurate estimate. But one of the things that we've added in ConstructionSuite 11 is some additional ways for you to get better visibility on what your profit looks like for your projects. Previously, you could get to this information, of course, by going into your estimate and running some reports or visiting that work in progress dashboard, but we've really added in the ability to see that information in more places so that that's always front and center, and you can really keep an eye on that project profitability.
Yeah, so starting with the projects themselves, when you actually head over to your list of projects inside of ConstructionSuite 11, you have a few new options to add financial information directly into the table of projects. Now, this makes it very easy for you to quickly scan through not only the base estimate cost for your projects, but to really start to drill in and see quick information on, well, how much have we budgeted for materials on this project? And how much have we budgeted for labor, for instance? As you move forward on the project and you start tracking your actual expenditures or costs for the job, that information will pull directly into the table as well. Now, efficiency is the name of the game in ConstructionSuite 11, and we wanted to bring ways to see snapshots of information for not only the projects you have in the system as well, but also the financial impact of each and every project, and also where you stand on each project. So we've added some options that pull in from places that you typically would have seen, like Holly mentioned, on the work in progress dashboard, directly into the projects themselves. This lets you stay directly on the projects page. It lets you see some quick snapshots and really can help you identify questions to ask for your team or to just start to research yourself. If you're looking through your list of projects and you notice that one of your projects' final gross profit percentage is starting to dip lower from projections, well, maybe that raises a question where you might want to jump in and take a closer look at the project to see what's happening.
That's right. Now, I already see some really fantastic questions coming in from our audience. So we'll go ahead and take a moment to just answer a couple of those. One of you asked, are these totals being pulled in to this table from the estimate, or are these values that you have to come back in and enter manually? And the great news here is that this information is being pulled directly from the estimate. So, thinking about that efficiency, we really try to take the information that you're entering in one place and use it to your advantage in as many places as possible. So rather than needing to come in and re-enter this information, this is really based off of what's in the estimate, and that's being displayed for you here. So there's no need to come back and enter additional information. This is going to come from your estimate sheet right onto this table. Now, in addition to being able to see your profitability information here, you're also going to be able to see more of this as we drill into a specific project. So if we'll select one of our projects here, now when you're on your project overview, you'll also be able to see not only a snapshot of your base estimate and current value compared with your actual cost and committed and things like that, but you'll be able to see exactly what your company overhead and margin numbers are for this project, and then using that information also be able to see some things like gross profit numbers, gross profit percentages. So all of that is more visible right on your project page as well.
Looking at this page here, this information is pulling from the estimate. All of this information typically would have been found inside the work in progress dashboard. But after some consideration and thinking, well, how can we make this project page even more efficient? How can we give more actionable information to the ConstructionSuite users? We thought that it was a natural move to actually pull some of that work in progress information back out of that table and into the project, into the projects table itself, where you can see all of the projects, and really make it much faster to get to that information. Now, that's nothing against the work in progress dashboard. In fact, I think that's probably one of the most useful tools inside of ConstructionSuite. But sometimes you just want to see where are we on the project right now? Like, what are our projections looking like for this project here, without even having to open the estimate. Now, should you decide to open the estimate, you'll notice a few things. First, we have very, very nice new estimate loading screens, but unfortunately they don't stay on the screen very long at this point. In addition to speeding up the actual interface of the ConstructionSuite application, a lot of love and a lot of work has gone into really optimizing the estimating platform on cost inside of ConstructionSuite 11. We've spent a good bit of time listening to user feedback, and we think some of the changes and updates to the ConstructionSuite 11 estimating system is really going to stand out and make you much more efficient. Starting with the same profitability calculations you saw outside the estimate, except while you're working in the estimate, you'll be able to see this information without having to go anywhere else. Again, some of this information before was only available inside of the work in progress dashboard, but now we've taken that information and put it right back into the estimate itself. That way you don't have to leave the page.
That's right. So it's just, again, more information to help you estimate better, faster, more accurately, and really understand then once you've done that, as that project is progressing, where do you stand? So when you're working within an estimate sheet, you'll notice, along with the options that you've always had over here on the right side, including a wonderful graph showing a cost breakdown here, access to sort of inline reporting showing you how the estimate totals up or breaks down by class or type, so all sorts of information that you can get. Now that profitability information is going to be displayed right here as well, so that you can have those numbers at hand. That can really help when looking at things like not only where you stand, but making decisions about what to do for certain change orders maybe that you've received, or other things that you're now having to work on or deal with this particular project. So it's great to have that, as much information as possible always available to you.
Of course, we've talked a lot about profitability.
Yes.
Right? But there comes the question, okay, so we're working on an estimate, we're filling in our costs. Well, how do we actually start building profitability into the estimate? Now, for the ConstructionSuite veterans out there, it's a pretty simple answer. There's a really easy way to add in line item markups, but really the simplest and most straightforward way is to use the company overhead and margin tool that's built into every single estimate. This gives you the ability to essentially apply an estimate-wide markup to whatever values you already have inside of the system. But we've added a very nice and simple to use company overhead and margin calculator, so that if you're working through the estimate and you need to make a quick adjustment, you don't have to leave the tab or the sheet that you're working on. You can actually just open up a new function here under the estimating menu called the company overhead and margin calculator, which gives you control over the actual percentage margin adjustments, or for those of you who use the percent of cost calculations, you can make that change here as well to quickly and easily adjust the percentages on the estimate. Now you can use the slider, which gives you a relative adjustment inside of the estimate itself. You can enter the percentages directly from the page, and you can also add in a fixed value markup on top as well, or you could just strip the percentage down to 0 and set a fixed value markup. Really, it's a very flexible system. It can handle a lot of different types of contracts for a lot of different types of contractors out there, and it's a very efficient way of quickly adjusting the company overhead and margin amounts inside of your estimate without having to commit to go to the end of the estimate. I think it's a nice touch.
Yeah, I think it's a great touch because it allows you to see in real time the impact that those adjustments are making. So even though it's really the same information that you would have on your company overhead and margin sheet, so you have all of your sections, your overhead, your margin, your contingency, anything else that you're wanting to mark up or add on to the project. So it's going to be the same information, but the great thing here is that you really have the ability now to see the impact in real time of what's going to happen. How does that impact now our estimate total, especially if you are managing multiple ones of these. I know many of you as a best practice do want to track overhead kind of separately from profit margin, so it allows you to maybe have a fixed amount here for your overhead that you always use, but come in and adjust the margin on that a little bit and see in real time, okay, where does that mean we land with our estimate total. Decide if you're happy with that, make some small adjustments or tweaks, again, right as you're working within those estimate sheets.
Now, speaking of the company overhead and margin, we're going to shift direction a little bit at this point. Some of the things that we're going to talk about now actually involve the QuickBooks integration. We've added in a fantastic way of giving those of you who are using the QuickBooks integration more control over the name of the company overhead and margin sheet when it sends across to QuickBooks. Now, that might sound like a very small adjustment, but it ends up having a disproportionate impact across a lot of different avenues. Those of you who might use the application for payment system, for instance, will know how important item names are. Those of you who use QuickBooks at any point in time might know the importance of names inside of QuickBooks. And we wanted to give you the flexibility and control to adjust certain items on your own terms.
Yeah, that's right. So, the QuickBooks integration that we offer for on-cost estimating within ConstructionSuite is really the industry standard. So I know many of you have been using this for years. It's one of our most popular features within ConstructionSuite because it's just so powerful. You're able to create this estimate here, send that over to QuickBooks, no double entry, no room for error or mistake. It's just going to really do all of that hard work and heavy lifting for you. And so ConstructionSuite over the years has won awards and accolades really just for being so great at handling QuickBooks integration, especially from the perspective of how much information you can send and receive. So you can both push information to QuickBooks, pull information back from QuickBooks, and now what we're really wanting to do is start to give you even more control over what happens to that information. So the setup process has always given you, a number of options that are going to align with the accounting methods and things like that you're using. But having the ability to assign how this overhead and margin sheet is going to show up in your QuickBooks now gives you some additional flexibility and control over, what that's going to look like once the accounting team receives it, how that's going to appear on things that you're generating in QuickBooks there.
Now, not to spend too much time on the integration setup, I think Holly, we'd actually discussed We're really looking forward to perhaps a deep dive into some of the QuickBooks integration features for 2020. Now, that's both the update to ConstructionSuite and also the QuickBooks 2020 update. We'll be discussing that at a later date. So we'll come back and review that. If you're interested or you want to learn more, either contact us now or hold tight. We're definitely going to cover it at some point in the future here very soon. But we did want to point out, when you're moving through the integration setup wizard, you'll notice there's a new section here, a new option here to rename the company overhead and margin section before you send across your information from your estimate to QuickBooks. And it's very simple. All you have to do is change the information here. Perhaps this is something like an administration fee. And it's as simple as that. Now, whenever you integrate with QuickBooks, the company overhead and margin section, while staying the same inside of ConstructionSuite, will send across and will appear inside of the QuickBooks transactions as administration fee. Again, it's a tiny change, but it has disproportionate impacts in a number of different areas. It gives you control over the invoices you might present to clients, for instance. Or perhaps, again, it affects the information that appears on the all too important G702 and G703 forms that you can generate from ConstructionSuite as well.
That's right. Now, one of the other things that you get, of course, from integrating with QuickBooks is a faster way to get to those profitability numbers we've been looking at. You can always come into ConstructionSuite and enter things like your actuals manually if you'd like to do so. But if you have that option to integrate with QuickBooks, it's going to save you a ton of time and give you, again, so much accuracy, so much information that you're not having to enter manually. Pulled that right into your estimate. So, of course, one of the things that we've done with ConstructionSuite 11 is actually give you some additional flexible options for how that information gets imported. Of course, we all want those profitability numbers, but we want to make it as easy as possible for you to get there. And so we built a couple of new options that will make getting the information you have in QuickBooks into your ConstructionSuite estimate even faster and easier.
So starting with the import options here, you can see, like we've had in the past, options to import the actuals or your costs that maybe you're flowing in from bills, credit card charges, other expenses that you would enter into QuickBooks. Those will be reflected inside of the actual cost column inside of the estimate, and outside the estimate now as well inside of the project table. You'll be able to import your purchase orders as committed costs and invoice amounts. Now, in the past, you had to import all of this information one by one by one, but we put in a very helpful, very easy to use tool. All you have to do is select Import QuickBooks Transactions plural, and all the settings you've set inside of the different components here will all import back in all at once. So you're able to update your actual cost, your QuickBooks invoiced amounts, and your purchase orders all in one fell swoop from one or two clicks from the menu here.
Yeah, now, so of course that's step one, sort of speeding up the process. But one of the things maybe I'm most excited to show you guys today is that we've also built in some automation tools that will allow you to set ConstructionSuite up to do this without any manual work from you at all. So it'll be something that you'll be able to set up, allow to run in the background, and your information will update for you.
That's right. You'll see inside of the main ConstructionSuite application now, there's a new option to set up QuickBooks batch operations. So this menu here will give you the ability to install a special ConstructionSuite automation helper agent. It's not quite an application, it's close. You'll see down here in the taskbar, we might not actually be able to see that with the way we're showing the screen right now. Let's change the settings here. If you look down inside of our taskbar, you'll see there's a new icon here titled CS Automation or ConstructionSuite Automation. This is a helper application that's installed, and once it's installed, it begins running in the background. You can install it very easily. You just click this one link here to install the system tray icon, and then you're set up to build your first QuickBooks batch. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, instead of going through and opening the estimates and clicking that Import All Transactions button, instead, you can build a batch of projects to import automatically. So instead of going through and picking each one by one, instead you can set up a list of projects, tell ConstructionSuite the day and the time at which you want to run the import preferably while you're sleeping. Hopefully nobody's actually awake at 1:30 in the morning on Sunday. And then let ConstructionSuite run through and update the information for all of the transactions for every single project inside of the list that you've selected. Or you can go through and select every single one of your active projects and trust that come Monday morning when you step into the office, that if your bookkeeping team and everyone else has been doing their job, that when you sit down to do yours, the information you're seeing is the most up-to-date costs and invoiced amounts inside of your estimate.
That's right. Now, of course, different projects might have different rhythms or be in different stages. So you have the ability here, of course, like you mentioned, Jordan, to select just which projects you want, which means that, not every project is even really going to be ready, of course, for importing of actual. So you don't really have to expend any energy on worrying about those. You can really just select the ones that you want. It may be that different teams may be working on different projects, so you might want to have a certain grouping of projects that's going to run over the weekend and import those. You might want to have another grouping that's going to run more so like at the end of the week, say Thursday night or Friday or something like that. So you really have a ton of flexibility to set this up to go to work for you in the background. And then the information is just there. You've got exactly what you need. ConstructionSuite's working for you.
That's right. You also have a ton of flexibility over the information that you import. Now, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients to help them configure and set the QuickBooks import settings that they want to see based on their precise and exact settings that they want to import. Some companies want to show all of the expenses that they have in QuickBooks, even if they haven't been paid. Other companies only want to see paid bills. Really the list goes on and on. I'll tell you all out there, you can set the settings to work and show exactly the information that you want to see to be successful and let that system take over and take care of it for you. Now, I see a question that had come up, and I'm actually really excited to see the question because I was just going in this direction. Someone asked, well, do we have to have any other programs or ConstructionSuite running in the background for the batch operation to work? Well, the great answer here is no. As long as the system tray icon is showing, as long as the ConstructionSuite automation icon is showing, then you're good to go. Now, this program is set up by default to run in the background on your computer. If you quit the application, you can always launch the application again. From the same data menu, you'll see there's an option to launch the batch operations or launch the system tray icon once you've installed the helper application. It's very simple. It's going to be very easy to set up. All you have to do is make sure that this icon is either showing here inside of the tray over on the bottom right, or if it's not actually showing, you might need to take a look inside of this little expanded menu option here. Of course, I just dragged it down for the purpose of the webinar here. Just make sure you see the ConstructionSuite icon in the system tray and make sure that your settings are still configured, and you're good to go. You'll also see once you actually have run the operation that you have a log to review. You can see we don't actually have a report set up here because we're still waiting for our import to actually run, but you have some quick options to see the last import, and this report will show you all of the different jobs that were updated, the information that was updated, and if there were any questions or anything that had come up in the operation that might have needed your attention. Now, that doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while we know that someone might think that they're being helpful and rename a job or something like that in QuickBooks. Well, you'll be able to quickly check in and see, oh, where did my actual costs go? It's very, very straightforward.
Now, a couple of other things that we want to look at in ConstructionSuite 11, of course, huge feature to be able to run those QuickBooks batch imports and really set that up. Going to be such a time saver for so many of you. We've also, on the importing and exporting front, really added some additional options for you guys in terms of just pulling information in, getting information out from your estimates. You'll notice that there are a couple of new options for exporting. So if you decide to export your estimate, maybe you just want to be able to see it as an Excel sheet or share that with someone. You've got some additional options for what's going to be included in that export, what it's going to look like when it gets sent out. So that's going to be available, of course, in your estimating. Within your scheduling, we've also built in some additional imports, including an import not only from MS Project. So if you guys have been using it, you know that you can import schedules in like an MS Project or Primavera format. So if someone, sends you a schedule in that type of format, you can easily get it in. We've also added a way to integrate with Smartsheet. So if you have an export there from Smartsheets or someone sends that to you, you'll be able to go ahead and pull that into your construction suite as well. So, some additional options for really being able to pull in and get data out of your construction suite, again, just to really help that workday go a little bit more efficiently for you. A quick note too on some upcoming webinars before we close out for the afternoon. We do have some great sessions coming up for Construction Suite's sister product, Construction Online. So when we look forward to next week, we'll look at how technology can increase your profitability and growth for 2020. So I know so many of you guys out there this time of year are really evaluating the year that has passed. So looking at 2019, looking at the projects, looking at what worked really well, what you'd maybe like to improve on. And as you start to look forward to that new year, really identifying areas of improvement and things like that. So we'll talk about specifically how technology can impact your 2020 profitability in next week's webinar. So that will be next Thursday, December 12th at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll also have a session the following week that will cover 7 steps to success in getting started with Construction Online 2020. So for any of you who need a refresher on Construction Online or just want to really ramp up what you're doing, or maybe are new to the platform or thinking about getting started, this will be the session for you. We'll go through some easy steps for getting started and up and going with Construction Online 2020.
Well, that about does it. I think that if we show off any more today, Holly, people are going to completely lose everything that they planned for the rest of the day. For those of you who have joined us, thank you so much for spending the time with us this afternoon. Now, I'm looking at the list of attendees here today, seeing some questions coming in, and I can already tell I'm going to be speaking with some of you here in a few minutes. I'm sure we'll be speaking with plenty of you, almost all of you, in the next few days and weeks as we continue to get ready for and then start to roll out Construction Suite. We really hope that you'll join us next week and in the coming weeks for the next webinars. Other than that, I hope you all take care, and if we don't speak to you again between now and the weekend, have a fantastic weekend. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.